This episode's for you if you wonder if magic is still around today.
Are you unknowingly taking part in witchcraft?
If your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether or not they should.
It always gets stuck in my throat. Every time the freaking...
Do you know it contains tree nuts? That's why it gets stuck in your throat. It's because you're having an allergic reaction.
No.
It literally says on the back.
Ben's healed from that.
My
Tree
eyes
nuts.
are watering.
You serious?
Yeah, but it's because I was coughing.
You all right, Ben?
We'll find out
On
in
the
about
very
5
special
minutes.
final episode of Faith Acts.
The heavenly hunk got the heavenly hunk.
That's so sad. No, I gotta make sure I don't have any heavenly hunk in my teeth.
You know, are there worse ways to die?
Oh, yeah.
Just making sure.
You could be taken out by someone you love. I feel like that's a worse way
Is that
to
a
die.
threat?
That was very ominous. I will admit. I didn't say that
that
was
a freaking threat?
extremely ominous.
Yep.
I watched enough true crime to be like, huh.
Is that a threat?
Perhaps while you're sleeping and you didn't do the dishes.
Right. Right. Perhaps while you're sleeping because you didn't do the dishes.
But I did do the dishes tonight,
did.
so I'm safe.
He's safe tonight.
Did you?
Back on the chopping block tomorrow.
Yep,
Every day is a new chance to die.
pretty much.
Here's this, right?
Isn't that what marriage is all about, though?
looking for an opening, the weak spot in your partner, and just
Did I do that right?
diving that knife right in.
So I noticed on the last episode I was doing, and it dawned on me, I was like, I don't have the lights set the same.
Is
like
my hair
daylight and stuff. So one side is more blue than the other side. So on your specific camera, one side's more blue and one side's more yellow.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Well, that's cool though. I like that. Is my hair poof being agreeable?
I think it's fine.
There we
It's
go.
Poofy.
It is poofy.
As long as it's poofy and full.
Was that the intent?
No. I just am hoping that it's agreeable. I
One-
can't control it.
One of these days, Levi. One of these days, I'm going to do your hair.
Yeah,
I'm
unlock
going to
the
it curly.
glory. Let me see what I've been missing. Let me look and be like, what have I been doing all my life?
You know what I'll do? I'll like give you a haircut. Like I will,
Go the
I will
whole 9
full on
yards.
style it, and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this is what's been hiding under this all along."
I need to lose like 40 pounds yesterday. This is great. I mean, this is the good part now. What's happening with all this? Hurry up and catch up. We have work to do. Ben, I like that background a lot.
It's good, isn't it?
I do like that background.
You have a new background every time.
You know what was messed up?
I like it.
I was telling Ben when I was watching the video for our last one. You remember how I was distracted by the duck?
Yeah.
As I was watching the video, I got distracted by the duck in real life again. I was like, huh.
I was out of control.
I don't know why.
Levi.
There was something about that duck. It was mesmerizing. It was like the way it was paddling.
Or maybe it's just your attention span.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. My attention span's a little special.
Don't watch reels or it'll get ruined.
Yeah. Or Coco Melon.
Well, you're sitting there, Coco Melon drooling.
The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. Changes every 5 seconds.
Actually, like I think it's like 2.
Yeah. It's
It's
because
less than 5 seconds. I can tell
because
you that.
the average is 5 to 7, and you want it to be at least 7 for toddlers.
Yeah, Bluey actually lingers. I think the longest thing it lingered on was it 3 minutes?
I have no idea.
They did a good job on lingering, but Coco Melon gets my serotonin going by changing it every 2 seconds. So that's what I need.
That's why I
Yeah.
need to stay sharp, stay focused, stay alive.
That's
What they
exactly
do
right.
is they also like they may have the same setting, but then they'll like pan it too.
Mhm.
And so like that people count that as like 2 seconds, but if it's panning, if it's moving, I wouldn't count that. Honestly, watching some of the music videos, like I was watching some of it and it made me kind of dizzy. Like it hurt my brain.
Yeah, I
What
can
music
see that
videos?
for Coco Melon.
Like the Coco Melon, like
Mhm.
the wheels on the bus go.
Put that on MTV.
Yeah.
Coco
Trippy, man.
We got Coco Melon for adults, although it kind of already is, considering
Yeah.
some of the things they cover on there.
Oh my gosh, music is crazy. We're actually going to talk about that today.
Oh, so what is the issue with Coco Melon? What's the harm in that for parents that may be on the unawares? Oh, I'm getting really bad today. I was speaking outside my mic. I can hear it. I'm like,
Can you rephrase? What do you like? What
What's
specifically
the
are
harm
you
in
asking?
Coco Melon? What does it do to your child?
be real judgmental when you say it. I want you to be real judgmental.
I don't
You'll have to
let my
help
kids
me.
watch it because I love them. So
I love them, and you clearly don't. No, just kidding. But the real dangers of it is like a lot of it has to do with their attention span. So honestly, any kind of screen time for anyone under the age of 2 is not recommended. Any screen time under the age of 5 is limited to very, very little. Like they wouldn't even recommend watching more than a 20-minute episode a day.
So what was the
So-
issue with Coco Melon?
So the issue with let me just backtrack. The issue with screens in general is it's addicting. I mean, look how adults are with their phones.
Not
like-
me, though.
Not Levi. It's addicting. And then like it literally it fires off the serotonin in your brain,
Dopamine.
right? Dopamine. Close. But yeah, it literally
feel good chemical.
it literally fires off dopamine in your brain when you are looking at a screen, when you're like scrolling through Instagram and watching videos and different things like that. So looking at children and their development, it's really important for kids if they are getting screen time, because there are some good videos out there. Like there are educational videos, and I know a lot of people like to use the screen time because it's educational and they feel like their children are learning. And, you know, I definitely have found that with our oldest. Like that's been a really useful tool.
Right. Like, I don't want my kids to be dummies, personally.
But
I don't want them to be stupid.
My multiple children out there, none of them will be dumb.
But basically, yeah, it's the bright colors, the oversaturated colors, 2-second pace. Basically, it releases dopamine in the kids. They say it releases dopamine in the kid's brain, and it's overstimulating. It's basically like your brain on drugs.
Okay.
It gets the child addicted to them, addicted to the show where they like trance out when they watch it, and
And you can see videos of this too.
yeah, they go into trances, and like basically when they watch it and they like throw tantrums if it turns off.
yeah.
People argue that, hey, it's not bad either. I mean, there's always someone.
There's the studies, the counter studies. You're
Yeah.
gonna
Right.
find what you want to support what you're doing,
Right.
no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. And so like the big thing is the hit of dopamine that they get, but also it affects their attention span. So like if they're watching a show that's really fast paced, like Coco Melon, you know, where the frames don't last more than 2 seconds before they flip to another frame. And even within those frames, they're panning, they're moving sometimes. It just can be really overstimulating. And with that, it causes children to often crave that overstimulation. So they don't know how to sit still.
Right.
They don't know how to sit down and look at a book. They don't know how to focus on an activity for more than 2 minutes at a time because it's not stimulating enough. They need the brightness. They need to move. They need to do all these different things because they're so used to it.
That's why Levi can't watch the screen. He can't look over here. It's too stimulating.
Stimulating.
That frog, man.
It's that
Water.
dopamine hit.
He just keeps falling asleep and waking up. I can't get enough of it. Look at the bubble.
But shows like Bluey, for example, where they do have longer frame times.
Right.
They're better, and Bluey actually has a lower saturation on their colors as well. And so like having those things are better for kids than what we had just talked about, because it's slower pace. And what we noticed, not so much anymore because Samuel loves it now, but we noticed that Samuel could play while he was watching those shows, and that's a good thing. Like he's not like tranced out into these shows. Our youngest son, he's not tranced out into these shows, and Samuel, he loves Bluey, so he's
very sneaky about getting more sometimes.
Yeah,
crawls up in lap and just
an
says,
addict.
"A Bluey."
Yeah. So that's really, the nutshell of it all. And it's just better for their development if they don't have a lot of screen time. But if they do, just making sure that they're not getting anything that's not overstimulating and all these different things, too fast paced. Because, we've kind of talked about iPad kids a while ago and how
they're based.
How part of the iPad kid situation is also because of shows like this. Like parents don't know what else to do. That's the only thing that will calm them at that point. So yeah.
You've convinced me, Jamie. I'm giving up Coco Melon. It was going to be a hard sell. I didn't want to, and it is like my favorite show, but I definitely see those detrimental things in myself. I find it hard to concentrate because I'm thinking of Coco Melon all the time.
All the time. You know what else is fast paced? This intro. Your story?
That one wasn't very good, but go on.
Yes.
So this is in the time of the apostles. Paul and Silas were traveling together in Macedonia, and they came into a Roman city, Philippi. So they're traveling in Philippi, I think they were going to a place of prayer, when a young woman started screaming behind them, saying, basically, these men are the servants of the Most High God who proclaim the way of salvation. And it's a funny story because she's back there screaming. Paul and Silas are obviously trying to minister, do the will of the Lord. And she's doing this. She does this for days. It's not just like a couple hours. Okay, lady, thanks. She's behind them screaming for days. After a couple days, Paul gets annoyed enough,
Now,
where he turns around.
Well, she had demons telling her these things too.
Yeah, when we're going to get to that.
Okay.
He turns around and he casts the devil out of her so she would stop.
Yeah.
So a few things kind of interesting about this story is, one, why would you wait that long?
That is the patience of a saint right there.
I guess so.
At some point, it just became
Literally.
background noise.
Right?
Literally
Just
the
like,
patience of a saint.
Well, I will say, Ben, when we help out at the Fall Fest, there is a
Yeah.
similar noise to
Yeah.
that sometimes. And so
you're right.
There is a
Yeah.
certain level of patience that one can have.
That's true. That's true. But what's interesting about that, this girl actually, he cast the demon, the spirit left her, the Bible says, and she stopped doing that. What's even more wild about the story is she was actually a slave girl,
Right.
and her masters get like infuriated that she had lost her gift of what they call divination.
Yep.
Mm.
And so she couldn't divine anymore. And so the Bible says that these masters got a lot of gain from her. Basically, she was a money maker. And so they bring Paul and Silas up to the city, and they're like, these guys are troublemakers, spreading weird stuff, and get them thrown in jail. But that's kind of wild. Maybe Paul and they had the wisdom, I guess, that they're like, if we do this, it might not be good. I don't know. But
Well, yeah, because I guess like, you know, it's one of those things like,
We've been running out of 3 cities already. Let's try and just put up with this for a little bit. Yeah.
well, but like, you know, thinking about our circumstances and like different people that we've encountered, you just don't go casting devils out of people without their consent.
You guys don't?
Typically, well, because
I mean,
There's-
every person I meet on the street, I mean, I'm just like you. I'm just, get out of there, devil.
but seriously though, like there is a stronghold there, and if they aren't wanting it to leave, then there's a hold there for them
Yeah.
to stay, and so
or come back,
or
and
come
it
back.
be 7 times worse.
Now there is
Yeah.
certain, I guess you have to be very privy to God's voice on what to do in those situations. But
Right.
you're 100% right. Where
Yeah.
like they honestly might not even want to let that thing go.
Yeah,
They might be completely comfortable with it. So you're trying to cast out something they want to keep.
yeah. I've literally encountered somebody who has been that way, where they literally just wanted to hold on to it.
Ben,
Yeah,
Yes.
but you know, so
his love
it
for
may
hunk cookies.
it may have been a situation where, you know, maybe she was proud of her gift of divination.
Mm.
And, you know, that was something that kept her from being in a worse situation as a slave.
I think in that case,
So I don't know.
I think in that particular case, it was just their patience with it. I think
Well-
in that one, they were like, because in that one, they were just done with it. They were
Yeah.
like, get out
Yeah.
of there. And
Well-
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But, you know, for them, why would they withhold it for several days? Like, I'm just coming
Right.
up with a potential.
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, that could
Reason.
be, yeah, I could see that. What do you call that? A theory.
Yeah. But what's interesting, though, is like you said earlier, though, she was possessed, but she's yet saying what's true. But it wasn't actually helpful to their mission there in Philippi, so they cast it out of them.
Yeah, I said
Out of
that
her, too.
earlier.
Which is interesting. But also, what I found interesting was the Greek word used for that spirit of divination is literally the word for python.
You're getting that mileage out of logos, aren't you?
Yes. And in Greek mythology, it kind of links Greek mythology with the Oracle of Delphi or Delphi.
Mhm.
The Oracle of Delphi. And in tradition, the python was a serpent or a dragon guarding the Delphic oracle, slain by the god of Apollo. Over time, python became associated with the priestess at Delphi, called the Pythia, who would enter trance-like states believed to be possessed by Apollo to deliver prophetic messages. These prophecies were often ambiguous and sought after by kings, generals, and common people alike. So it was just kind of interesting. It was, they called it, you know, soothsaying or sorcery and divination. And then it kind of connected it to the oracles of Delphi, which would have been in that time too.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was kind of a cool connection that you don't hear. I haven't heard before. But that kind of goes into like,
I think it's important to say too is that with their specific case, it was just a truth being revealed. She was just saying, you know, what was happening. But in the case of like when they predict the futures and stuff, I think more often than not, they're speaking that future into existence. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it's not, at least to my knowledge, demons are not, they're bound by time. They are not unbound by time. They cannot see the future.
and a lot of it's like,
And so like a lot of these
fulfilling prophecies, but also it can be, you know, vague enough where you're like, oh my gosh, you know.
well, and I think
like
that
the horoscopes that you see in magazines, those are so vague on purpose.
well, it's important to be careful on who you go to seek your future. And it really only I shouldn't say who you go to seek. It should be God. God's the only
Right.
person, because in the Bible it reveals your future. You know, it's one of those things where that sounds really convoluted there, but it does. It says what's going to happen to you if you follow the word. But when you go to like one of these, I guess fortune tellers, people
Fortune
like this,
tellers, which is a diviner.
right? What you're doing is you are giving them power over your future. You are seeking their input for your future. So what they're speaking into your future, I mean, if you're not repenting for it, it'll most likely come to pass. You're agreeing with them on what they say for your future. And it's scary because I think that a lot of people think that they're seeing into the future when they've given them reins to talk about your future to you.
Right.
Well, not talk about it, but to speak that future into existence.
Well, I in the Bible even is very clear on you shouldn't go to diviners. You shouldn't be part of fortune telling, a part of necromancy, a part of consulting spirits.
Wait, necromancy?
Yeah, it's kind of put in with divination.
Oof, I have a hobby I got to give up. I did not know.
man.
Shoot.
Well, dang it.
My Saturday nights are ruined.
But there's occult things that the Bible says, you know, we call them occult now, but there's things that the Bible says that, hey, you shouldn't be a part of it.
Right.
Now, there's obviously there's power behind those things. And Christians that want to say, well, it's just ooky spooky, it doesn't have any real power. That's not true.
No, there's a spiritual aspect of what's going on. I mean, even with that girl, there was a spiritual aspect giving her, I guess, knowledge of Paul and who was it?
Silas.
So it's like there's definitely a spiritual aspect. That's why it's so dangerous to go to these people, because you're spiritually, I mean, you're giving them power.
Yeah. And, you know, when people consult spirits, they consult mediums and all these different things. Is, you know, I guess in the Christian world, you know, these things are very real.
Right.
Like not just in Christian world, but just in general, these things are very real.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just some like
Hokey
silly,
pokey.
hokey pokey.
Well, the Bible's not going to
type
talk about the
thing.
spiritual realm and the spiritual things if it's not real.
And he's not going to forbid it either. He's not going to forbid it if it's not real either.
What do you mean by that? Like forbid what?
The,
Example.
Like
the spiritual like divination and things like that. If it's
oh,
not real,
okay. Yeah.
and if it doesn't have some kind of power and draw to it, he's not going to, you know, condemn it either and say, oh, you
right,
can't
because what would
do
be
that.
the point?
Exactly. So it's kind of interesting, you know, when you talk about, you know, magic and different things, people think of like, oh, it's just silly. It's just, you know, whatever it can be, you know, our minds go to like whatever it is, like Disney or, you know, the stage show we watched, whatever it is. But there's a lot of,
They'll give you a weird look.
yeah,
Like, you really believe that?
yeah. But there's
Are the demons in the room right now? When chances are, yeah, probably.
yeah, if they're summoning crap, probably. But there's a lot of rituals and things that people do in, you know, even today.
Yeah, you
That-
the freaking music industry.
Yeah. And
I mean, they know what they're
we'll
doing.
talk about that.
Oh, is that coming up?
Yeah, it's coming
Oh,
up.
boy.
But like, you know, you have all these different things that people do that are demonic, that dive into tapping into the spiritual realm. And the occult can be basically summed up as trying to get power or guidance outside of God,
Right.
outside of the Holy Spirit, and seeking power versus seeking God and His will.
And can you refresh my memory? What was she saying again? She was, what was when she was
she basically, to paraphrase, she basically said that these are men who are proclaiming the truth of God's word, basically.
Okay. So I also want to bring up the point that even demons know that Jesus is Lord.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
And so what the parallel that I'm trying to make is
The
demons
pigs.
can speak truth. They know who is walking in light. They know who is walking with the Lord. And it's not like they can't or are unable to speak these kinds of truths. And honestly, I think, listening to the story, I think that it was more of a mocking spirit at that point,
Yeah.
He's speaking the truth, but it's mocking.
Right. And it's
I could see that 100%.
it's deterring from their mission. It's
Exactly.
not helping them. That's why obviously he turned around eventually and cast it out.
Exactly. And so,
that makes sense, because you sit there and you kind of wonder even why they're saying, or why she's saying that. Well, why they're saying that through her.
I think it's a mocking spirit. And it's one of those things, like, if you do go to a fortune teller, even if they give you a good fortune and they tell you, oh, you're going to find the love of your life this year, and then you're going to end up with 3 kids, like you end up with a really nice fortune, like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to turn out the way that it should. Like that could be a mocking spirit. Yeah, you could end up with those things, but
A deceiving spirit.
or a deceiving spirit, like, but what's it really going to look like when you're
Right.
not walking with the Lord?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it could end there, but what's that husband? Well, you're supposed to have that husband.
Right.
All these things. And even still, perhaps everything's perfect. Perhaps it's going to get you in deception to thinking that this is the way to go.
Right.
Oh, well, hey, this chick, she predicted it all right. And my life turned out great. I'm going to go with this. And in eternity, what's that going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
might have a great reality right now, but what is 100 years to an infinity?
Right.
And that's 100 years if you're lucky. So,
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like, I think Christians take, especially in America, in the West, we take this stance on, or we can take the stance on supernatural and witchcraft as something that's not really around today. That's like, don't be paranoid or anything like that. And
you
it's
get funny
like,
looks. You get funny looks.
You
in the
get funny
sermon.
looks when you start talking about it, but it's like, this stuff is absolutely real. And there is a spiritual consequences of getting involved with those things as well.
Well,
Yeah.
even the conversion of Saul, is such a strongly spiritual thing that couldn't have happened otherwise. Like, his conversion to Christianity, or what would become Christianity, is miraculous in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It took a spiritual element to convince this very traditional Hebrew man. Was it Hebrew?
Mhm.
Yeah, Hebrew man. To follow Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
he persecuted, he killed. He was so ingrained in that culture. And I mean, it's interesting because I'd always kind of ignored that aspect of Paul, like how miraculous that turn was. But
Right.
without the spiritual happening to him, without him coming into that encounter with Jesus, that would have never happened. And then you also realize all the things that Paul was able to do in that instance, because in that time, he was a Hebrew of Hebrews. He knew everything. So he was able to give, all this knowledge and do it very freely to the Gentiles.
Right.
And so it's just like, because sometimes people like to stay in the Paul era, which doesn't have that much. It does have a lot of supernatural, but even the conversion of Paul was hugely supernatural.
Absolutely. Absolutely it was. And
Yeah.
when we don't realize, or we're ignorant, or if we just don't
Want to honor it.
think of the spiritual side of it as something that's there, or as something that's important, you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Oh,
and you let
100%.
things into your home that you shouldn't let in through, like, whether it's media, whether it's music, different things like that, where especially our culture is saturated, our entertainment is saturated in witchcraft.
And that's the
It's
thing.
saturated in the demonic. And this stuff of, just letting it in, going, well, it's just music, it's just a show, it's just this and that. When they're literally performing rituals and you go, oh, well, it's just entertainment. And you go, that is not just entertainment. They're doing rituals for a reason.
Very blatantly, very obviously. It's like these people
It's not even
obviously believe what they're doing.
Right.
These people that set the standard of culture believe in this weird stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're the opposite side of good. You know what I mean? It's like, why won't Christians believe in the spiritual when these Hollywood, elite types, allegedly politicians, we'll just kind of keep it light. But it's like you see this stuff where they're doing these rituals very openly and in your face, almost mockingly. But Christians are too afraid to say, yeah, there is a spiritual aspect. Yeah, there are still demons. Yeah, there are still miracles. And all these gifts are still for today.
Right.
At no point does it say that this stopped. This didn't stop when Paul died.
Right.
This didn't stop, when John died. This is still happening.
Right.
And I actually want to backtrack a little. So you mentioned that it's like being afraid of that. And honestly, I think it's a fear of losing
Congregation.
a fear of losing their comfort in being oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, right? So, if you're ignorant to the spiritual aspect of, I was just thinking that I would say there is a spiritual aspect to just about everything that you do in your life.
And there's a Bible verse to back that up.
If you're not physically doing something, it's your thoughts, And so for Christians especially, who just don't want to recognize that, I think it comes from a place of being comfortable not acknowledging that, because if they acknowledge it, then they're going to feel like they have to be accountable to more things that are going on in their life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas they do, and they will be held accountable when they see the King after they pass away from this earth. But it's just one of the, especially in the West, we are creatures of comfort. And if we don't have to be confronted, if we don't have to make changes that are hard,
it's fine.
Most of us don't.
Yeah. Most of us don't. And
why is the verse not coming? Like, I'm using the Bible app, and the spirits and principalities verse did not come up when I typed in spirits and principalities, because I wanted to back that up. That is biblical. It's not a flesh and blood, but a spirits and principalities.
Yeah, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but
right.
against spirits and principalities and powers in the air. But I wanted to talk about this because, in the days we live in the last days, the Bible talks about how we are going to be facing these deceivers that come in and people being led astray by various doctrines and various things.
It doesn't sound like that's happening, though.
No, not yet.
And witchcraft is one of those things that are leading Christian people. What can be one of those deceptions that lead Christian people away, whether it's Reiki, whether it's
Reiki.
Yeah, it's like a energy type thing.
Oh, I'll believe you.
It's New Age.
Okay.
New Age
Similar
is a
to,
big thing.
The chi.
Yeah.
No, so the vibes.
New Age is a big thing, mixing the gospel with New Age, things like that.
Right.
And you have all these different things that pervert the gospel, that twist and warp it, and that's how Satan operates. You mentioned that Satan knows, these demons know truth, they know who God is, and they do, in order to twist and warp it into something that sounds good, that sounds Christianese,
or even that just sounds like empathetic.
Yeah,
that sounds right. You know, and morally speaking, that sounds good, that tickles your ears.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, just seeing this stuff in churches and seeing it in teaching and stuff, you have to be discerning. You have to know the Bible to know what is the truth.
Right.
Today I was at a St. Patrick's Day parade doing some filming.
Oh.
And it shocked me because one of the people walking in the parade, or one of the groups walking in the parade, was a group of witches.
Oh my
And apparently they walk in this parade every year.
Really?
And when you look, like, they are dressed in their druid outfits and all their get up and everything, and it is wild. I was just like,
you didn't see the necromancer float, did you?
I wasn't there.
No reason in particular. I just want to make sure.
But witches, you mean like wearing the like traditional, like what you think of like a traditional
not the
witch?
pointy hats. It's more of that. If you look at like
The old like Gaelic type stuff.
the old Gaelic type
Gotcha.
stuff, where it's
That's
the
so odd.
druidic
Yeah.
type stuff. Some of them even had like really ornate horns that were really like druidic and stuff. It was really, really wild. And I'm like looking at all this, I'm like, oh my gosh, but this is where our culture is at right now. And this is where we're at in culture. I mean, you look at, and we'll get into the SNL skit that was recently done with Lady Gaga. And I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't. I'm excited to hear about it.
I didn't watch
Don't
it.
be.
I didn't
it's
watch
unsettling.
it. So Levi, you could probably fill in some gaps for me. I watched someone talk about it, and like they showed a few clips from it, but I didn't.
I only
go
watch,
into
I'll
it.
be honest, because like usually you can kind of stomach this stuff for the most part. Like you're like, I'm prayed up, this can't, whatever. I was only able to watch like 2 seconds. Like I watched a couple seconds of the skit and 2 seconds of the performance, and I was like, this is messed up. Like it just, I don't know. Like I guess if we just go into it, like I've been talking to Ben about this. It's unsettling when you look into someone's face and you don't see something human. Like when
Yeah.
you look into their eyes and there's just something,
Not right.
Like-
They're possessed.
it really is weird. And not only was she possessed, but her performers, like they were all just so unsettling, so bizarre. And they'll claim it's art, but she's gotten caught several times being like, oh, I swear to Satan, oops, she'll hide in plain sight. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I sneezed.
We'll mute you right there.
That was a weird sneeze.
That was
Yeah.
weird.
But it was just really freaking unsettling because like you see that not only she's possessed, her performers are possessed, and you look in her eyes and I told Ben, like at some point you wonder if these things, like the person, and it's weird, but he'll go into it, but you almost wonder if this person is like not there anymore. Like if they've just completely given over to these things, and these things are now wearing around this husk. And it just was so like unsettling, is the
And
best way you can
I don't think
put
we
it.
have a biblical
Definition or back
precedence for that. But that's,
That's just what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that that's biblical, but to me, looking at her in that performance, looking at those performers, even you just didn't see that familiar, I guess, that soul there. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
felt like something was very empty and very creepy.
So from what I understand of the skit was, it's basically they're doing a summoning ritual, and there's people that are like, oh, I don't know about this, guys. And they're like, oh, it's fine, and like it keeps getting weirder and weirder. So she has them like drink this blood and stuff like that in this skit. And it's interesting because she mentions 2 demons that they summon in this skit.
Mm-hmm.
The first one being Lameshtu.
Good enough.
And Lameshtu was a Mesopotamian goddess who was feared for her destructive and chaotic nature. And she would actually, especially her attacks on pregnant women, infants, and the vulnerable.
What in the world? And then you
So
put that
they're
together with the
summoning this-
abortion thing to me that's going on
yeah.
today.
So you're summoning this thing that attacks pregnant women, and all this other stuff. She's also often depicted as a grotesque hybrid creature between a lion head, donkey ears and teeth, bird-like talons, and a hairy body. She's sometimes shown nursing pigs or dogs, emphasizing her perverse and unnatural qualities. She's believed to cause miscarriages, stillbirth, and infant mortality. She also brought disease, nightmares, and misfortune on adults. So very interesting, kind of that first demon that gets summoned. The second one, go ahead.
I just want to bring up, because I want to make sure that this was correct. She was like in an interview, and or like you say, like, I swear to God, I don't say that, but some people do. She goes, I swear to Lucifer. Oops, that's what it was. So she let that slip openly.
That was kind of like oopsie.
Yeah, oopsie. But yeah. I just want to, there are weird instances, but that's bizarre. So she's
listen to her music videos or her music, and you'd know. The other demon.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, can you say the name of the demon again?
It's Lamashtu.
The first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one is Pazuzu.
Oh, that one's that one's a big one.
Another Mesopotamian demon. That
was big in online circles back in the day, like in the
made popular today by the Exorcist series.
Yeah.
They're rooted in Assyrian and Babylonian mythology.
Gosh, that's bizarre.
Pazuzu is typically depicted as a humanoid figure with a monstrous face, often a canine or leonine, wings, talons, and a scorpion-like tail. Statues and plaques of him were common, showing his intimidating yet commanding presence. His role was as a wind god. He controlled the destructive south winds, which would bring drought and famine. He was also invoked as a protector against other malevolent forces. Most notably Lamashtu, which is crazy.
See, and this is the thing, though. You just got into how you need to be careful what you let into your house. If this was a comedy skit, why are they calling on real demons? If this was just a joke, ha ha ha, like, why are we looking up real Mesopotamian and like Babylonian demons and using them in your skit? Like, that's bizarre. There's no point for it.
It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
That's Curie.
Yeah, that's our robot vacuum talking.
Should we go get that?
Nah, it's fine.
Oh man!
But it's absolutely bizarre. Like, you're doing this, and it's like, oh, it's comedy, it's a joke, but you went far enough in to actually look up what demons you're going to summon in your skit.
Well, and you're seeing this more and more in culture. I think, like, you'll see a very popular YouTube animated series that's very popular among, like, I don't know, I guess teenagers now. But what the lady did was she looked up in like demoniacs and found these like real documented demons.
I saw that. Oh, never mind. You're talking about something else.
No, it is. I mean, it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if it'd be worth name dropping. I guess we can if you want.
I don't care.
All right, we'll drop it if you don't, or if it would cause issues. So it was Hell of a Boss. And, I followed this chick for a while. She was a great artist, great character designer. But you could see that she just kept getting a little bit more weird every time she'd do like a new project, just getting a little bit more off. And in this new series, she goes into these like demoniacs and finds like real, I guess, documented demons. And it's hard because it's hard to say how much these documented demons are accurate.
Myth. Yeah.
Right. Legend. But she'll find them. And, there's, the ones based on lust. There's ones based on, just any number of things.
Right.
But she finds a way to design them in a palatable way to basically sell them to people, to make people fans of these characters and to sell merchandise of these things. So now you're getting merchandise of these, documented demons in your house. Sure, you just have a plushie of the, demon of lust sitting around.
Yeah.
But that's what you're starting to see. You're seeing in our culture them selling you these demons in terms of like lovable characters, comedy, art,
music,
but you're seeing it more and more often, and it's becoming more and more blatant.
Yeah. And even in not to pick on Lady Gaga because there's plenty of them, but even in Lady Gaga's like new album, she has a song called AbraKadabra, and I actually didn't know this, but you look at what AbraKadabra means, and people aren't quite sure, but it's really the most popular and widely accepted, I guess, is it's believed to have roots in Hebrew or Aramaic. And a theory suggests it derives from the Aramaic phrase AbraKadabra, meaning I will create as I speak.
Mm.
And so there's that.
I mean, it
Manifest
makes
your
sense.
destiny, speak it out, and manifest your destiny type stuff
Well, there's
where-
biblical roots in that too. There's
Right.
power of life and death in the tongue.
in the tongue.
And so these demons, again, it's what Jamie was talking about earlier. These demons know the truth,
Right.
but they know it enough to twist it and use it for their purposes. So when these people, they're saying what they're saying and they mean what they're saying.
Right.
When you're sitting there invoking the name of demons on the most, I don't know if it's the most watched show, but it is a very popular show on live television, and you're bringing that into people's houses. They're not joking. They're not saying any joke names. They're not making stuff up. They're saying the name of 2 demons and they're invoking them in your home.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
might think it's a joke or not, but I take that kind of seriously. That's very bizarre.
Right. And then kind of to finish my AbraKadabra thing. So people say basically that's what it means, or that's the most popular theory of what it means. But also it was recorded, first pops up in written history around the 2nd century AD in medical texts by a Roman physician. He recommended using AbraKadabra as a charm to cure a fever. So it was actually used quite a bit as charms and stuff as it kind of got over time. And then it kind of over time became stage magic where you go AbraKadabra.
Yeah.
But it had roots in actual real magic, which I thought was really interesting. I thought it was always just gibberish and stuff that was made up.
From a witch
but
doctor.
But it actually had roots in real magic.
That's
which
really
is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked about this like around Halloween time, but one of the ways that the devil is trying to open doors is by making it seem cute, making it seem fun, and all these different things to let your guard down.
Oh, it's just fiction. It's just art.
Right. It's just allegory, just myth. But to just you won't be on guard for it. And
Right.
so then you have that open door for whatever to come into your life
Right.
at that point,
And that's one reason why I won't watch like scary movies and things like that. People, get on, that's just, whatever. But anyways, that's why I don't watch scary movies, because spirit of fear may not manifest in me being afraid of gutters because a clown's going to grab me.
Oh, I am.
But a spirit of fear can manifest in, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for my family if I lose my job? Different anxiety, things
or having
like that.
nightmares,
Having
chronic nightmares.
things like that, where the spirit manifests in other ways in our lives, and anxiety and fear, and the two are correlated.
Well, and as a big horror movie fan back in the day, I'm not anymore, but I was big horror buff. I watched them all, loved them all. Why would you find entertainment and pleasure out of the things that God and Jesus, he sent Jesus to die to redeem you from?
Right.
It was such a big deal that one of the, I can't remember who it was in the New Testament. They had a parade going on, and people would just
Timothy.
was it Timothy?
Mhm.
People would just take part in it. What's the big deal? It was a big enough deal that Timothy gave his life to tell them to stop.
To warn
Yeah.
them.
And so, you really have to ask yourself as a Christian, should I be entertaining myself with the things that Jesus died to redeem me from, to protect me from, to save me from?
Right.
Should you then be going back and saying, yeah, but I like it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's entertaining. It's just
Yeah.
entertainment. Because like you said, it's one of those things where, it might not scare you in the way that you think. You might not be afraid of any number of things, men in white masks, whatnot. But it'll come back as anxiety. It'll come back as any other things because you're letting that into you.
Yeah.
You're letting, and that anxiety, I think that people like to say, oh, fear's different, scariness, anything like that's different. Anxiety, look at how much it's affecting our culture.
Right.
And that's the root of fear. It's It's wild to me how much people have normalized anxiety when you can look around and see exactly what we have in our culture that's causing it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And people just live with it. I lived with it.
Yeah. And it's demonic. It's this thing of letting these demonic footholds into your life, not recognizing or not wanting to recognize it and saying, well, you're just being too staunch, you're being religious, you're being this or that. But it's like, well, look at the outcomes and the fruit of what's happening in your life. If you say, well, it doesn't matter what I watch, and we sit there and watch things filled with sex and pornography, and then we're addicted to pornography, you go,
Ben, don't talk about anime like that.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop, don't talk about my anime like that.
But I mean, there are some good animes. There are still some good animes. But it
Very
is
few.
Very few.
I will say this, as someone who suffered from anxiety and was redeemed from it, and I mean, we're talking genuine panic attacks, not the fake ones.
Right.
Not the ones where people are like, oh, I'm having a panic attack. Like the kinds where you feel like you're dying, actively dying, where you're having the symptoms of heart attacks going on. There is no amount of entertainment that is worth that.
Right.
There is no amount of something that you could play or watch that is worth that anxiety.
Right.
And it's weird because, you'll make excuses for things. Like even when I was revisiting, I think it was Resident Evil 4, I was playing that.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's not necessarily that scary, but there is a theme there. There's definitely a theme that's running through it. You have to ask yourself, is it worth even having that? Even if it's a small element of it, is it worth bringing that into your life?
Right.
Is it worth opening that doorway? Because that's what you're doing. Even if it's a crack, you're opening that doorway and you're just risking that thing taking a foothold, taking a root in your life,
Right.
one that you're not going to recognize because it's not going to manifest. You're not going to be afraid of, Spanish zombies running around with like parasites in them. That's not going to happen. But what will happen is, next time that you have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a current anxious thing that people are anxious with. The war.
Jobs, war, the economy.
Yeah, when you can't stop thinking about that, when it's bothering you, there's a root there, and the root there is fear, and there's something there that you let in that is causing that fear, that anxiety.
Yeah, and whether it's just not trusting the Lord, or it could go deeper into allowing a foothold of Satan into your life through something like that. Even with like suicide, depression, things like that.
Oh, huge! Listen to the music with that one. Music.
Yeah, and the music, and that's what I was going to say. The music, like there was this popular song several years back now, but it was like the beat, the music aspect of it was so catchy. It was like boom, 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 boom. It was like,
I know what song you're talking about now.
but he would say something. Maybe I should unalive myself. Just blame it on the ADD, baby.
Yeah.
And there was that song that was really popular for a while. And it was like really catching. People are listening to it, but it's like you're hearing this.
You're speaking it.
You're singing out, you're speaking it, you're AbraKadabraing it into your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's magic. It's a form of magic. And it's how, and I don't want to use the word magic, I guess, because it's just super hokey, but it's demonic.
It is, because we just got into, I mean, if you're following along, you got this far, you're listening to this conversation. We've just hit the points about the power of life and death in the tongue. That's biblically backed,
Right.
and it's like when you're sitting there listening to these songs that are glorifying depression, that are making you feel comfortable in depression, then you're speaking these things out. I mean, what are you establishing?
And then you wonder why you're depressed.
Why am I depressed? Why am I anxious? All these things, like you are actively allowing these things. And it's bad because Satan, what was he?
He was an angel of light.
But what did he do? What was he part of? What was his function in heaven?
Oh, shoot. He was a musician.
Yeah.
He was a musician. And so
That's the popular, because the way he's described. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things. But generally speaking, he was a very artsy individual. He would use music, art, one of these things. And so you have all these musicians that say, oh, I sold my soul to the devil. And then you listen to their music and it's like, I mean, how much are these people how much can these people tell you to your face what they're doing before you believe them? Before you say, maybe there is something to this.
Maybe they weren't joking.
And I mean, you watch their music videos, they're drowning in black goo and singing these songs surrounded by, depictions of demons or even becoming demons. It's like at some point you got to sit there and say, these people don't have good things planned for my life.
And it's not just that, it's the spirit behind it. You know, Bible says that Satan came to kill, steal, and destroy.
Right.
And you can see that in how he works in the music industry, who works in the entertainment industry as a whole. Music especially, but the entertainment industry as a whole is so demonically saturated that it's hard to find anything almost that isn't totally just wrecked and totally demonic, and something that's like, oh, this is okay to listen to or watch.
Well, and it's scary because they'll use things that aren't.
We have to keep it down.
We got to keep it down.
They're kind of shifting.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I'm just going to keep an eye, but keep talking.
Okay, because I thought I heard something down there earlier.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah, it was definitely Zion.
Oh no. Completely threw me off.
No, it's okay.
Well, I think it's just really important to, all of this being said, I think it's really important to watch what you allow into your eyes,
be mindful,
allow into your ears, and allow to come out of your mouth.
Because there's some great songs that I listen to some secular music from time to time, but anymore I pay very close attention to the lyrics, because more often than not, I'd say 9 out of 10 songs, they're speaking death over you.
Yeah.
And it may not be in the terms of like physical death, but they're speaking anxiety. They're and they're speaking to your anxiety. How do I put this? They're making it sound good, but if you listen to the lyrics, you're speaking anxiety over yourself. Like there's a song that I like from, I don't listen to it anymore, from Juice WRLD, where he says, "My anxiety is the size of a planet." And he's speaking that over yourself. But if you're repeating those lyrics, you're saying, "My anxiety is the size of a planet."
Right.
And it sounds good because you're like, wow, that guy knows what I'm going through. But you're reinforcing that your anxiety is huge. And you keep saying that over yourself. It's going to take a root in you. You're going to eventually develop that level of anxiety. You're listening to Evanescence songs. And it's sad because I think that a lot of her songs, I think that she's searching for something. Like, I think that if you listen to her lyrics, she's definitely searching for something to save her. And it's very obvious.
You're pulling out all your obscure old music reference.
No, Juice WRLD's new.
Juice WRLD.
Yeah, relatively new. He's a sad story. Don't look. It's sad. He's not with us anymore. Got great music, but you listen to the lyrics and there's just too many of them that are just
not good.
The industry got to them.
Yeah.
But Evanescence, you listen to her music and you're starting to speak that over yourself. I mean, you're going to be depressed out of your wits. It sounds amazing. It's very good. It'll tickle your ears. But when you're allowing that in, when you're not being mindful of what you're taking into you, and not only taking in, but reciting back, I mean, you're going to see that take root in your life.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll probably have more episodes going into different kinds of magic and stuff, and different
weird magic stuff.
Weird magic stuff. And because you need to be aware. I think it's good to be aware of what these things are, what the terminology is. Things like Reiki.
Well, because again, there's that Bible verse that reinforces
reading,
this.
things like that, where
tarot cards,
tarot cards, divination, which is all divination. You shouldn't be doing these things. You're summoning demonic entities into your life, and you're inviting them in and saying, "Hey, tell me about my life. Tell me about my future." When God has a future for you, He has a plan for you, and it's all to take away your trust from the Lord and put it into something else.
Yeah, it can get real freaking subtle in that regard. Like, I mean, you can get that stuff being done in entertainment. So it's like maybe you're not playing tarot cards, but this video game you're playing has you interacting with a mechanic that's using tarot cards. Maybe you're playing a video game in particular where you're taking a pew-pew to your head and letting demons come out of it. Literal demons.
Talked about, that one.
Yeah, which is a very, very, very popular game. And, you'll have people defend it, but that's what you're doing in the game. There's no other, they have gone into all these cultures and found these various gods and demons, and you're summoning them.
Right.
And most of those games end with you fighting Yahweh, or they get away with it by saying YVHW, which I think is actually the original spelling of it. So it's even worse.
Yeah.
I think that is.
Yeah, I think
it's YVHV actually.
It might be.
No.
Because that's
I think it has
Jehovah.
Fight.
J-
I think it's YEWH actually.
Jamie, come
Someone
on.
fact checked us in the comments.
But yeah, like you just see that in all kinds of entertainment. Like even in a show that was really popular.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But I was actually thinking Vampire Diaries.
So there was a vampire. Something vampire
you were
related.
close.
I was.
I watched somebody talk about, like one of the writers talk about how they actually used like real spells in the show.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, and I saw the video. They were using real spells in the show.
Yeah.
And they had to end up stopping because there were so many bad things happening to the people on set, I guess.
That was, oh gosh. Either that was the same story or, what was that remake that happened recently? I know there was a remake that happened recently where they did the same thing. No, it was like a really messed up one. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. They did a remake of Sabrina the Teenage Witch recently. And I think that either had the same story or a similar story where they were looking up real stuff and then lo and behold, it was starting to affect them negatively. It's almost like Satan does not have good plans for us or something.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's not our friend. It's
almost like that.
It's like if you can't trick yourself into thinking that's, I don't know.
Yeah. You just got to be careful what you take in, what you watch, what you listen to, what you say. You've got to be careful.
And you can say, well, I'm not doing it. I'm just, watching
it's just fiction.
It.
It's just entertainment.
Just fiction. I'm watching it or whatever it is, but it's like,
it's just a song.
You're letting it into your home. You're letting it into your eyes.
You're letting it into your spirit, your heart.
Your ears, your eyes, your heart, and you're partaking in it. The Bible says that those who take pleasure in those things, it's in Romans like chapter 2 or something, chapter 1 or 2 or something like that. But basically like those who do those things, but also take pleasure in those things, they're just as guilty, basically.
Well, yeah, because you're agreeing to let it in.
So it's not just doing those things, it's taking pleasure in it as well. And that's if you're getting entertainment out of it, you're taking pleasure in it. So...
Well, and I guess for the atheist, I mean, that's not going to matter much. But for a Christian, I think that you really need to be introspective and say, if I have the heart of the Father, why am I able to find pleasure in the things that he died to protect me from?
Well, and everyone's at a different level of their walk.
Oh, I'm not being judgmental.
I think that's a good question to ask.
It's worth looking into yourself, and because it's like,
are there things I'm entertaining myself with that Jesus died for,
right,
to set me free from?
The deeper that you go with your relationship with God, the more you're going to detest that stuff. Yeah. You'll hate what he hates. You'll love what he loves. And the more that you are able to stomach that stuff. And again, I'm not like judging. I'm not saying, you're a level 1 Christian here. But it is something to be aware of, is why are you able to partake in that stuff and why are you not absolutely sickened by it?
Right.
Because there's like there's some things where the flesh is going to be the flesh. You know what I mean? It's going to want to...
The flesh just being flesh.
It's going to be the flesh. But you need to, so there will be a draw to it.
Yeah.
But... when I could have the most entertaining thing in the world, and I do, like I'll watch one of my favorite series, and the moment certain content comes up in that series, I'm out. I'm just like, I don't want this.
Right.
Like I can't make an excuse for this. This disgust, like it's gotten to the point where it disgusts me.
Right.
Like before it was like, sometimes you'd have to force yourself to quit. But now, the deeper I get, I just don't like it.
Right.
Kind of aggravates me.
And the more you develop your relationship with the Father, the more those things do aggravate you. And the more they do, like, there's something like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Where something was okay for you, maybe someone or a baby Christian or even you at the beginning of your walk where it didn't bother you. And now you're like, oh, I shouldn't, something bothers me here.
And pay attention to those too.
Pay attention to that. And it's worth asking God. Like, I don't think it's something that we can go, or like it's something that we shouldn't do. We should ask the Lord, are there things in my life where I need to take out of my life that are not of you, that aren't serving you?
Because you want that heart in you, because you know what, again, the more you have that heart to recognize those things, the more that you'll be able to recognize those doors that are cracking open and shut them.
Right.
And I think it's really important, when you do ask the Lord, are there things in my life that are not pleasing to you? Are there things in my life that you died to set me free from? when he brings those to your remembrance, it's really important to obey and get rid of those things. And, a good example of, how disobedience can really ruin you is with Saul, and how, he obeyed 99% when it came to, I can't even remember what it was. Yeah. When it came to that, and he obeyed probably 99% and was like, oh, I just, decided to keep a couple things and bless other people with it, whatever. And the thing is, once you start to disobey, you start to, as you mentioned, you're able to stomach a little bit more. So your disobedience doesn't bother you the more you disobey.
Yeah,
Your heart slipping a hardened heart.
Yeah. And so it can really just spiral your life at that point too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like after this episode, I'm definitely giving up my necromancy. And it's tough because I like that.
I don't
I
believe
liked
you.
doing that.
I don't believe you. I'll believe it when I see it.
Just don't come to the freaking, what are those, the graveyards?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how tired I am. I'm like, what are those things that you put dead people in?
Isn't there one close to your house too?
He lives right behind one.
That's what I thought.
Or right in front of one.
My hobbies.
Yeah. That was heavy. So, on something a more lighter note.
Sorry,
What?
that was my stomach.
Oh, I thought that was something
I thought that was
outside.
a baby.
So he said, sounds outside. I was like, what? That's a weird car.
Yeah. On a lighter note, in 2021, a company was founded called Colossal. And they kind of...
Sounds pretty big.
Yeah, it's very big. They have big ambition. They aim to restore like biodiversity, repair ecosystems. Wow. Ecosystems
What were you
damage.
going to say? What was that?
Ecosamage. I was trying to ecosystems and damage.
Okay,
together.
I thought you meant
Okay.
like sandwich. I was like, yeah, I'm hungry too. I could go for a sandwich.
Yeah. Ecosystems and by damage by human activity and combat ongoing the sixth mass extinction. So they kind of got all these plans with basically like trying to genetically modify and help things to grow and to not go extinct and all these other things. But their interesting projects are the de-extinction projects.
Okay.
Let me ask you guys this.
Oh no.
Do you guys like woolly mammoths? Do you like the Tasmanian tiger or the dodo?
I've heard of this. I heard that they were doing stuff with this.
Did we have a movie about this? Wasn't there a movie in which
We
some
did.
guy was like,
We did. Spare no expense. These people, they're saying by 2028,
Oh, I
They
was
will-
like, it's
yeah.
past 2020, honey.
2028, that they will have made a cold adapted elephant mammoth hybrid. Basically a woolly mammoth.
I will say is this is the people that made the woolly mice.
Yes.
So I don't agree with messing with God's creations, I'll be honest, but those things are really cute.
Yeah, they
really,
were very
really
cute.
I couldn't help
They
it.
were
I
very
was like,
cute.
those are kind of adorable.
But they found a woolly mammoth, and it shares 99.6, apparently shares 99.6 of its DNA with another type of an Asian elephant. So they're basically sequencing the genomes from nearly 60 mammoth specimens preserved in permafrost, identifying genes and traits like shaggy hair, insulating fat, and smaller ears. And these genes are being edited into Asian elephant cells. In March 2025, they achieved that milestone by creating the woolly mice. And I'll put a picture up of the woolly mice because they are freaking cute.
We need to make the
I
woolly
wanna see.
hyraxes now.
But they're doing this with the Tasmanian tiger as well.
Oh yeah, that's completely fine. I mean, what could go wrong?
And they want to reintroduce it into Australia once they do it.
I mean, if there's anyone who's going to be used to a deadly animal being reintroduced to the
It's
ecosystem,
Australia.
it's the Aussies.
Yeah, they have a ton of horrible things. I mean, I do not want to visit Australia. I have no desire to, just for the fact of everything. If you're in the sea, a box jellyfish can get you, or I think it's box jellyfish or man of war, one of the two. If you're on land, it's just a whole host of things. And it's just like, it's not worth it. It's really not.
the various drop bears.
Yeah, the drop bears.
I do want to go to New Zealand though, which is right next to it. It's not as bad, right?
I don't think so.
From
And
what
then
I've
the
heard.
giant spiders that live in toilets.
Yeah. And then there's the
Mhm.
dodo that they're trying to revive as well.
The dodo deserves it. The dodo's a good
Um,
boy.
So they're trying to figure these things out. They're using a genome of the Nicobar pigeon to do that one.
Nicobar pigeon.
Yeah. I don't know what that looks like, but they're trying to extend the beak and make it bigger and stuff and make dodos come back to life too.
So biblically speaking, how does this fit in? This sounds a little...
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I think that's the
except for the woolly mice are allowed.
key thing. I don't know. The Bible talked about not mixing seed, not doing weird stuff like that, and I think that can fall under the weird stuff category where you probably shouldn't be doing that and messing with God's creation. If it's gone, it's gone, and it needs to be left in the past.
Yeah.
Sorry, woolly mammoth, but
What about the woolly mice?
They could
they're an abomination.
Just because they're cute doesn't make them right.
Doesn't make them right.
they should
Satan also came as an angel of light.
Oh, I will say the woolly mice is going to be the hardest thing for me to decry. I love those
You won't
things.
see him in heaven. I didn't create that.
they should redirect their efforts toward work like conserving the
Current
population
animals.
of animals that are growing extinct.
Oh, there's
instead
so
of the
many.
ones
Well,
that
that's
are
what they're
already
doing too.
But instead of the ones that are already extinct.
Yeah,
Right.
but they're also working on like making sure animals don't go extinct.
How are they doing that? Are they doing
don't
that in a
know.
weird way too?
Probably, but I'd have to look into it.
We've created a monkey with the brain of a human. We learned nothing.
Dude, Japan's already doing weird stuff like that.
That's
so.
fine. That's fine. It's like, it feels like all these movies are just like, hey, Terminator, let's go with that. Let's go with Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Let's see
Which
what else
one
we
will
do.
go first?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Let's just tie these all into the most nightmarish post-apocalyptic ending setting we can.
Yeah, right.
I still
When
need
Jesus
to
comes
find
back,
that
he's going to
other-
be like, whoa. Like, what did you guys do?
I still need to find that movie that I talked about that one day about I talked about the extra person who lived in everybody had another person as an organ donor. Did I tell you about?
No,
I thought I talked.
That's a recent one, right?
I didn't
Let
hear
me
about
find
that.
the movie. Let me find
I
it.
know they made a recent one like it. All these
Yeah,
fun
but that
things.
probably
I
falls
thought I
under
talked about it,
abomination.
sorry.
No, not the woolly mice, at least. Probably an abomination.
Probably an abomination.
Probably a little bit.
Probably a cute abomination. Are you just the cutest abomination?
Its eyes turn red and stare at you.
It's like the rabbit from Holy Grail Monty Python.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we're in for some fun times. We're using all these movies as blueprints. We're going head first into the apocalypse, and it's going to be wild.
Right? Like, how can we make things worse?
A little bit of Independence Day in there. Let's throw that in there.
Oh, yeah, that is getting thrown in there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
we're going to get that thrown in there.
Yeah.
My gosh, we're just going for a record.
Yeah, we are.
And all these movies were blueprints.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look up Lesser Magic.
I think it was called Never Let Me Go, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the right movie.
It's a pretty name for a movie.
What's the...
The premise is
The Island was a movie that's also the same.
the premise of the movie is there's
Why are there so many movies
this
about
group
this?
of people, like it starts off, this group of people are just living a very mundane, boring life. Like there's no color. They're all eating the same thing every day. And like they're monitoring their health very, very closely. And then one of the people escapes somehow and ends up running into her clone. And basically you find out that the people in that place are there as spares
Yeah.
to be organ donors for their clone.
Nice.
Like I said,
Should
there's
it
a lot
ever
of
come up?
movies about this. I wonder why.
So
It's because that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I think so. I throw that in
That's
there
why
too.
God has to come back. Jesus has to come back. He's like, if I leave you to your own devices, this is Tower of Babel all over again.
yeah.
Oh, I said Babel.
Yeah, it's because we watched that
Yucky.
show.
Yucky.
It's
Tower,
modern
it's
day
the Tower
health
of
insurance
Babel
though.
all over again, where it's like Now it's
Nightmarish
gonna be
creations
I need
beyond
to
our
stop
belief.
this. I need to stop this.
Humans are like, how horrifying can we make things?
And
Let's
like the times
really
before
go-
the flood, like we're getting
Yeah.
into all that
Well,
stuff.
as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the days of the Son of Man comes. So, hybrids, demonic things, demons, all that. It's here. It's horrible.
Some Alamaus thrown in there.
Alamaus thrown in.
Jesus.
Alamaus are demons. I am 100% on that.
Yeah. So are woolly mice.
Beam me
Probably.
up, Jesus.
Yeah, beam me up, Jesus.
For
Well-
what it's worth, I remember this real quick though. Was oh gosh, who was it that bargained with God to save people? It was Abraham, I think, when he was trying to save
Sodom and Gomorrah.
yeah. I mean, it's like you got to have that mentality of crying out to save as many people as you can, because I mean, there he was seeing abomination after abomination.
It said it vexed Lot's soul that he was in there
Yeah.
seeing all that.
But I always thought that was pretty convicting, was the
Yeah.
fact that you had this man who saw like the worst kinds of degeneracy available to men, and his heart wasn't hardened towards it, and he wasn't trying to
They deserve it.
Yeah, like he literally was sitting there being like, can we save as many people as possible?
Right. Absolutely. And, maybe you got through the episode and you are like, man, there's things in my life that aren't correct, that I've let things in, I recognize, and I want to be free of these things. And the only way freedom comes is through Jesus Christ. The Bible says he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man can come to the Father except through Jesus. He died to set the captives free. He rose again so that we could have eternal life and know him, and not just have an ethereal experience when we die and go to heaven, but have heaven here on earth and to know him. And so if you want to make that commitment, it's just as simple as saying, Lord, I believe that you died, that you rose again on the cross. I ask that you save me from my sin. I thank you, Lord, that you've redeemed me. And I ask that you fill me with your Holy Spirit. I believe that you died and that you rose again. And if you prayed that, and if you made a commitment to Jesus, let us know. We'd be more than happy to get material to you to help you in your walk with the Lord. That Levi's still not in.
In the darkest of nights, when the shadows arise, a whisper of power, it's a cold evil guise. Dark magic's grip, tight in the air, a force of despair weaving through despair. But then in the distance, a light starts to shine, a force so divine cutting through the line. The power of Christ, stronger than the night, a beacon of hope, a warrior in white. Dark magic falls, but the light won't fade. The power of Christ will never be swayed. Through the storm, through the fight, we'll rise again in his holy light. The wolves of the wild and the mighty dodo, once lost to time, now in the winds they flow. The mammoth returns from the ice and snow, a world reborn where the ancient winds blow. The battle rages, dark and divine, but the earth will heal in its sacred time. Magic and science, faith and fire, the creatures return, rising higher. Dark magic has no end. Dark magic falls, but the light won't fade. The power of Christ will never be swayed. Through the storm, through the fight, we'll rise again in His holy light. So let the wolves howl and the birds take flight, for the power of Christ is our guiding